Joining me now is Grover Norquist, President of Americans for Tax Reform, a taxpayer advocacy group he founded in 1985 at President Reagan's request. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So the president is talking about raising taxes on wealthy Americans to pay for breaks for the middle class. It appears that 2016, because that's what he's projecting to, right, is deja vu all over again, right?
Well, that's what he calls it. Of course, we do know it's a massive series of tax increases, and they'll hit everybody. He is talking about massive spending to go with the significant tax increases. What's odd is that if he really believed that any of this was a good idea, he could have done it in 2009 or 2010 in budget reconciliation with 51 Democratic votes, and he had 60 at one point. This is a list of things he didn't do when he had Democratic majorities in the House and the Senate. This is a political document, and what's odd is the president had told the business community for 6 years now, he's told them that he wanted to reform the tax structure, which is very damaging for Americans. We pay higher rates. The business community pays higher rates than all of our competitors overseas or even in Canada. He's been telling them he wants to do this, he wants to do this, and none of that's here. It's all just tax increases and more spending.
Well, let's be specific about what the president wants to do. He's proposing
he wants to double
$320 billion in tax hikes over the next 10 years, an 8% hike on capital gains, new fees for big banks, increases in taxes for couples earning $500,000 or more, and he wants to use that money to pay for college for some middle-class people, and he also wants a $500 tax credit for married couples, and he also wants to to pay for child care in this country. That's all worthy stuff, right?
Well, it's a series of spending bills that he's put forward, none of which he did in the stimulus package. I mean, you do have to wonder, he has been always very good as a political spokesman or as a candidate. He's going back into campaign mode. Governing mode would have been, what are we going to do on tax reform? There's no tax simplification. He doesn't help people who save their money through 529 programs. He damages those. He damages the Coverdale Education Savings Account and makes them less attractive.
Let me ask you this, Grover. Will you roll out a no tax pledge in 2016?
Well, the no tax pledge has been shared with candidates for office going back to 1986. We have a majority of the members of the U.S. House of Representatives.
But will you hold their feet to the fire like you did the last time around?
Oh, well, look, the American people hold elected officials to their commitments. President Obama promised he wouldn't tax anyone who made less than $250,000 a year. It took him 16 days to break that promise. There are 8 taxes on the middle class in Obamacare. If he wants to help the middle class, let's get rid of the 8 taxes in Obamacare, which directly hit middle-income Americans and make their lives more painful.
Let's talk about that for just a second, because you say President Obama wants a return to the Jimmy Carter era with higher taxes that can kill jobs. But how can you say always raising taxes kills jobs when the president has raised taxes on corporate America? He has raised taxes through things like Obamacare, right? Yeah. That impacts small businesses, and the minimum wage has increased in several states and cities, yet job creation is growing at a rate we haven't seen since 1999.
You're looking at 3 months. He's been president for 6 years. If you take his recovery from the bottom...
The economy is doing great now, and we were in a deep recession, might I remind you, in 2008.
Let's compare this recovery to every other recovery since 1960. It is the worst recovery compared to all others. Reagan's, he's 10 million jobs behind Reagan's job creation at this point. His recovery is worse than every one since 1960. Yeah, we had a great 3 months this last year, but compared to all other recoveries, this is a very lousy recovery. Millions of Americans are out of work because he decided to tax and spend, which slowed the growth, rather than to take less regulation, lower taxes, and have a more pro-growth economy. We are paying dearly to this day for the mistakes he made, and he wants to do more of what didn't work.
Well, surely you could argue that he has done nothing to make the wage gap better for middle-class Americans, right? And even Republicans are lamenting the wage gap right now. Mitt Romney, Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul. As far as ideas go, I've heard only one, and I heard it from you as well, reform the tax code. That, of course, takes a minute. Like, surely there are other ways in the meantime that we can solve the problem of the wage gap. What are those ways?
We're 10 million people unemployed in this country because of the president's policies compared to Reagan's policies.
The wage gap, though, how can we solve the wage gap problem?
By getting more people jobs. One of the reasons you have a wage gap is because people don't have work.
But more people are getting jobs, but their wages aren't rising. And that's a fact.
There'd be 10 million more people. Actually, it's more than 10. 10's a nice conservative
And that'll somehow
estimate.
drive up wages?
Because you go from zero to your wage. The most important thing you can do is get people jobs, and we want to have higher wages. The president's friends, the trial lawyers who are busy suing companies and individuals, are a tremendous cost on economic growth, and they keep wages down. The president has not gotten free trade agreements that were ready to go years ago. He's not focused on those because organized labor has told him no. Now he says he's going to. That would be helpful if he'd switch his policy. But that's a very important thing to getting wages up and to having more growth in the country. We should be exploring for oil in more places in the United States. He's closed down ANWR, which is thousands of jobs. He's killed the pipeline, which is thousands of jobs.
America's dependence on foreign oil has greatly decreased.
Because we've been drilling more. Yes,
right.
Why?
We have been drilling more.
In private land, on federal land where the president has anything to say about it, it's gone down, not up. Down, not up. The president's case is very bad on this because in the private sector and on private land and on state land, that's where this new explosion of growth is coming from. If his EPA regs went in to stop that, as they've tried in other areas, we wouldn't have this growth. We have avoided this because the EPA, his EPA, has been kept out of being able to shut down fracking.
I will only throw one more thing at you because I think it's confusing to a lot of Americans. So gas prices are what? Almost $2 a gallon on average across the country, right? That means states like North Dakota, right? North Dakota, which is a big drilling state. The people who own oil companies there are planning thousands and thousands of layoffs. So help us understand that.
Well, two things. When you expand more drilling and bring out more oil, at some point the price goes down. That's a good thing. What we're looking to do now is find out where we can. You want a low price of oil, and you want as much exploration as we can in the United States.
Absolutely, but these layoffs are kind of disturbing, right? Because those jobs have greatly helped the American economy.
They have, and we ought to be opening up opportunities to drill in other places, such as offshore. People can move to new opportunities there. Look, in an economy, there are always jobs being created and jobs being killed. The problem we've had is we haven't had enough jobs created as you have a mix in jobs turnover. That's always going to happen in a free economy. You want more jobs created than ones disappear. That's what we haven't been doing very well for the last 6 years.
I have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me, sir. I appreciate it.
Sure.